Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here because today we're embarking on a truly fascinating journey. We are unpacking a source that is going to completely reframe our understanding of what it actually means to trade. Look, we're stepping entirely away from the typical dry discussions of PE ratios, moving averages, and economic data. Instead, we're diving deep into the human mind. The text we're analyzing today doesn't just look at the stock market as some massive financial institution. No, it treats it as a psychological battleground. It's this incredible piece of writing that reveals exactly why so many of us are drawn to the charts, and honestly, why so many ultimately fail. So get ready to look at yourselves and your relationship with the market just a little bit differently. No one enters the stock market just for the money. I want you to just let that sink in for a second. On the surface, it sounds almost completely contradictory, right? But think about the underlying fantasy here. Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning, and instead of a blaring alarm clock and a grueling, miserable commute, you wake up simply because you're rested. By choice. Think about looking at your day and knowing that your time belongs entirely to you. Money is really just the printed paper. What people are actually chasing when they open that brokerage account is that profound, quiet morning where they are finally the master of their own universe. Okay, let's dive into this. The source outlines these true motivations perfectly. People enter the market because they want absolute control over their lives. Let's be real, we're exhausted by the reality of someone else's decisions dictating our time, our income, and our stress levels. When you look at a stock chart, you aren't just seeing red and green candles. You're seeing the conviction of being able to say, I stand on my own 2 feet. That is what our source brilliantly calls the true hunger for freedom. It's this powerful, intoxicating desire to be utterly independent and self-reliant. I mean, it's the ultimate dream. But then, the source hits us with this brutal, undeniable reality. The market breaks you. Before it ever grants you a single drop of that freedom you are so desperately hungry for, it breaks you. You open your app, you see opportunities, you see all those dreams in the charts, you genuinely feel like this is the grand beginning of your new life. But the market? It isn't a beginning. It is a ruthless, unforgiving examination. It doesn't care about your dreams of waking up without an alarm. It demands a toll. Now, what's truly fascinating is how the source totally shatters the grand illusion of trading. We're all taught from day one that the market is a game of numbers. If you just learn the math, if you just memorize the chart patterns, you win, right? Wrong. As the text explicitly states, the market is not a game of numbers. It's a game of emotions. It is quite literally a mirror reflecting your deepest psychological flaws back at you. All the technical analysis in the world will not save you if you cannot pass the emotional examination the market forces upon you every single second the opening bell rings.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is how the market essentially reads your mind. And it does this by weaponizing 2 extreme emotional states against you. When you're in profit, your confidence absolutely soars. You feel untouchable, like a total genius. But the second you are in loss, a deep, paralyzing fear grows. Suddenly you're sweating over a tiny $5 drop. The market swings you violently, like a pendulum, between these 2 extremes, and it's those exact extremes that force you to make terrible, irrational decisions. The source is crystal clear on this. If you're seeking freedom but lack patience, the market won't give you independence. It will grant you punishment instead. Let's look at exactly how this trap is set. When you take your first trade, this is almost exactly what happens. Step 1, you invest a small amount. Your expectations, however, are massive. Then, step 2, the price ticks up slightly. Your heartbeat quickens a bit, right? Step 3, the profit actually hits your account. And then comes the most dangerous step of the whole shebang. Step 4, the delusion of mastery. In that single fleeting moment, you actually feel like you've cracked the code. You feel like you have mastered the market. It's a deeply psychological, incredibly dangerous sequence that literally every beginner falls for. The market reveals its secrets to no one that easily. You know, the source points out that this first profit is quite often the single most dangerous thing that can happen to you. Why? Because it's almost always the result of pure luck, not actual skill. But our human ego, it absolutely refuses to admit it was just luck. And when you mistake luck for skill, that is precisely the moment your downfall begins. The trap snaps shut. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of every trader. We have this romantic misconception that draws us all in. Trading equals freedom. But then we slam headfirst into the rigorous, demanding reality. Trading actually equals discipline, routine, and immense self-control. It's basically the exact opposite of doing whatever you want whenever you want. The market is not some magic ticket out of hard work. Honestly, it requires a far stricter set of rules than almost any traditional 9-to-5 job on the planet. To really drive this point home, the text explicitly lists what freedom is not. Just look at these behaviors. That universal panicked feeling of waking up in a cold sweat to check a crypto chart at 3 a.m., that is not freedom. Checking the chart every 5 minutes while you're trying to eat lunch? Not freedom. Becoming physically restless and anxious after every single loss is not freedom. Acting on random emotional impulses just because a candle turned green is not freedom. If you're emotional, if you're impulsive, the market doesn't liberate you. It makes you its slave. You literally just traded your old boss for a new, much crueler one. So we need to pause, take a breath, re-anchor ourselves, and really define what true freedom actually is in this context. According to our source, freedom is when you trade according to a strictly planned strategy and a tested process. It is the absolute absence of acting on temporary emotional impulses. This shift in mindset matters so much. True freedom in the market is actually the ultimate form of self-restraint. It's having the ironclad discipline to sit on your hands and do absolutely nothing until your specific pre-planned criteria are met. Let's move to and see how this builds into two distinct paths for everyone who enters the market. You can choose to chase the temporary high of excitement, and hey, it feels great for a moment, but you will burn out and blow up your account very quickly. Or you can choose the professional path. This means committing to the boring, repetitive process. The person who chooses the process is the one who actually grows stronger, more resilient, and more profitable day by day. This dynamic is the exact mirror that transitions an amateur trader into a professional. The text tells us something profound. Loss makes you humble. Profit tests your character. Think about it. When you take a loss, do you get furious and revenge trade, or do you humbly learn from it? And, even more importantly, when you actually make a profit, does your ego explode, or do you remain perfectly calm and stick strictly to your risk management? Remaining calm during profits while learning from losses is the actual alchemy that turns you into a professional. So, what does this all mean? It all comes down to a highly actionable rubric. The question is not, and honestly never was, how much money you can earn. The real question is this checklist right here. Can you control yourself? Can you actually follow a plan that you wrote down yesterday? Can you remain completely at peace, just sitting at your desk even without taking a single trade all day long? Can you leave your ego completely at the door? I want you to honestly assess your own level of self-control against these 4 crucial questions right now. Because if the answer to any of those questions we just asked is no, the source provides a very clear, unavoidable guarantee. The market will teach you, and it will teach you through the medium of pain. Financial pain, emotional pain. It will systematically strip away your capital and your confidence until you either learn these lessons of discipline or you're forced to quit entirely. There are absolutely no shortcuts around this. Which brings us to the profound conclusion of our source material today. Freedom does not come from the outside. It doesn't come from a fancy new indicator, a faster computer, or some secret trading strategy whispered on a late-night forum. Freedom is built from within. Before you ever start trading, you have to work on your mindset. You can learn the strategies later. You can apply the technical indicators later. But first, you absolutely must conquer yourself. Because the ultimate truth of the stock market is that before you can ever hope to beat the market, you must first master the person in the mirror. It's an emotional examination. It's the ultimate test of discipline. So as we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with this final vital question to reflect deeply upon before you ever place another trade. Can you master the person in the mirror?